I didn't tell Benjamin about my decision to jump from the bridge that crossed the river. First, because the doctors said my illness was likely beyond saving. Second, because I knew he never truly loved me. So that day, I said goodbye as if nothing were wrong. He leaned lazily against the doorframe, watching me. I whispered, "Goodbye, Benjamin." He raised a brow. And just like that, I walked out of his world forever. Main story. You look beautiful today. Safe travels. Come home early and see me. Those were the 3 things Benjamin said to me this morning. He tilted his head, resting his chin on his palm as he stared at me. Stared until my face grew hot under his gaze. Bathed in sunlight, the man sitting so casually suddenly burst into laughter. He laughed so hard his shoulders shook, yet somehow he still looked effortlessly handsome. How many years have we been married? Anna, can you please stop blushing every time I look at you? I stiffened, grabbed my keys, and fled. In the end, I still didn't tell him that I had decided to jump off the river bridge. Even though I knew. Even if I told him, he still wouldn't try to stop me. I died, yet somehow I could still think. I had become something like a drifting spirit. Hovering, wandering. I didn't know where else to go, so instinctively, I went to look for Benjamin. And that led me to a lavish, brilliantly lit hotel banquet. It wasn't hard to spot him. Benjamin was born with a kind of magnetism that drew every gaze toward him. He was the center of the room, as always. It was comforting to stand at his side. He knew exactly how to make people like him, whether or not he ever gave them his real heart. Tonight must have been the celebration hosted after he received that major award. His career was soaring now. With every appearance he made, his voice and his looks proved one thing. He was made for the spotlight. Benjamin was no longer the man who once squeezed into a cheap rented room with me, no longer the one who lost his voice singing at bars just to get by. Mr. Lin, let me toast to you. I hope we'll have many chances to work together in the foo. Ah. A young woman in a long gown walked over with a glass of champagne. Maybe she stepped on her hem, maybe someone pushed her, or maybe there were other undercurrents in the room, but she fell straight into his arms. He shifted slightly, catching her by the waist. The moment she steadied herself, he withdrew his hand. He still held his glass perfectly upright. Only a splash of champagne stained his shirt. A pale, spreading patch across his chest. And her lipstick, bright and unmistakable. I'm so sorry, It's all right. He cut her off gently. The moment she looked up, she fell into a pair of soft, smiling eyes. Don't let this ruin your evening. Compared to me. He bent down a little, blinking playfully. It'd be far worse if a pretty girl's pretty dress got stained, wouldn't it? A flush spread across the girl's cheeks and to the tips of her ears. But the man who made her blush didn't seem to care. He simply nodded, saying he needed to change and would step away for a moment. Yet the instant he turned and left the crowd's line of sight, a deep, unmasked weariness rose in his eyes. Cold. Irritated. Exhausted. I tilted my head and drifted behind him. Benjamin, you're still so good at pretending. After changing, he didn't return to the banquet. Instead, he found a quiet corner in the garden to smoke. I once saw a comment from someone online, Benjamin Lin came from the heavens, he's like an angel born with light. But I always felt he belonged to the night. When he stripped away all his masks, he wasn't gentle at all. If anything, he was sharp, cold, even cruel. For instance, when we were doing that kind of thing, he liked to drag me in front of the mirror. Ask me what we were doing. Ask me who I was. Make me stare at my reflection and ask me what I looked like. When I looked into his dark eyes, all I ever found was a heavy, desolate silence. And a restless loneliness. The glow of his cigarette blurred his expression as he lowered his head, fiddling with his phone. It was our chat window. Right. I hadn't messaged him today. I loved texting him. Whether he replied or not. If he replied, I was happy. If he didn't, I kept trying. Until one day he told me he'd set my messages to Do Not Disturb. But I never knew. I was still pinned to the top of his chats. Our last messages were from last night. I sent, these 2 cats look like us, don't they? This one is me, always rubbing against you. You only reply when you're in a good mood. I'm so sad. 10 minutes later, from a different room in our house, he replied, no. Those 2 letters were the last thing he ever sent me. He stared at the screen for a moment, then locked his phone. Footsteps approached, high heels. Benjamin put out his cigarette and turned toward the girl standing before him. Mr. Lin, this may be abrupt, but I've always liked you. It was the same girl who had spilled champagne on him. Under the bright moonlight, her cheeks flushed faintly. Perhaps the alcohol had nudged her courage awake. He lowered his gaze, eyes curving slightly. Moonlight rippled in them like water. I'm sorry, but I'm off work right now. So if you want to say things like that, maybe save them for my fan meeting? He always did this. Left people room to retreat. It was gentle, but gentle like a dull blade scraping the heart. The girl panicked. No, that's not what I meant. I mean I like you as. You're drunk. This time he cut her off coldly. His voice cold, his eyes colder. The girl blinked, flustered. No, I'm not drunk, If you're sober, then you should be able to see the wedding ring on my finger. He lifted his hand, displaying the bright ring circling his knuckle. Under the dark night sky, it drew a sharp, elegant arc of light. Then he turned away, no longer acknowledging her, leaving her alone outside in the biting wind. This wasn't like him. I thought he would continue pretending a little longer. I drifted after him. Watched as he walked into another corner, unlocked his phone, and tapped around. Then he lifted his phone to his ear. Leaning against the wall, half his face swallowed by shadow. The number he dialed was mine. The call rang, until it ended in a cold, hollow busy tone. I didn't answer. My phone was already sinking somewhere at the bottom of the river. For the first time, Benjamin couldn't find me. I used to believe, so deeply, that Benjamin liked me. Otherwise, why would he have grabbed my hand that day when we ran from the orphanage? I always thought that if I ever confessed to him, he would surely say yes. Otherwise, why did he always give me the best bites when we were on the run, hiding from everyone? Benjamin and I came from the same orphanage. When I was 6, he took my hand and escaped with me. The director of that place used to call me a dog, made me eat like one. The night Benjamin took me away, it felt like I cried every tear I would ever have in this lifetime. He pulled me into his arms. His voice was light and careless. I don't like comforting people. But now you have me. So don't cry anymore, okay? From that moment on, my world had only one person in it, Benjamin. Later, he told me he'd found someone who could take us in. A tall, thin man looked me over and said, "All right. Let the girl go to school." Then he flashed yellowed teeth at Benjamin. "As for you, you'll be working for me." The man adopted me. So I got to go to school. But Benjamin didn't. He followed that man, leaving early and coming home late every day. I never knew exactly what he was doing. But from my perspective, I took it for granted. That Benjamin had given up school, for me. He was willing to give up everything for me. Just like back then, when we ran, he only had one hand to hold, and he chose mine. I couldn't stop myself from falling harder and harder for Benjamin. By the time we hit adolescence, his features had grown sharper and more refined. He liked to laugh. There was something magnetic about everything he did. When he walked past the school gates, those long legs of his always caught the eyes of dozens of girls. People often asked me for his contact info. I just shook my head and said I didn't know. All the while wondering, why was he always so adored? Every memory I have of middle school is wrapped around him. Every moment was tinted with the ache of a secret crush. Until that one summer. The air filled with cicadas. I sat by the old apartment window, unwrapping an ice pop. He had just finished his shower, towel drying his hair as he stepped out of the bathroom. Water dripped down the ridges of his abs, the golden light of sunset tracing every line of his body. I stared, dazed. Forgot to even eat my ice pop. Sticky sugar water dripped onto the floor. Then suddenly, he was standing right in front of me. He leaned in, very close. Then stuck out his tongue. And licked the ice pop, slowly, from the base to the tip. He did it while looking straight at me. The setting sun reflected in his beautiful, seductive eyes. I couldn't see anything else. My heartbeat exploded in my ears. Spacing out? If you're not eating the popsicle, I'll eat it. His low, teasing voice tickled my ear. The popsicle was already in his hand. I stared at the faint pink curve of his lips. I couldn't hold back anymore. I tackled him onto the bed, pressing him down. The ice pop slipped from my hand and thudded onto the wooden floor. I kissed him in a flurry. But he turned his face away. Our breaths were ragged as we stared at each other. "I like you," I said. He lifted his chin slightly, his voice indifferent. "What?" "I like you," I said again, louder this time. The last rays of sun filled his eyes. He slowly looked away. "I'm sorry." I stared at his profile, so heartbreakingly beautiful it made my chest ache. "I must have made you misunderstand," he said. A quiet verdict, soft but firm. I begged my angel for an answer. "If you don't like me, then why are you so nice to me?" "It's not that special. I'm nice to everyone." "Then why did you pull me out of that place? Why did you hold my hand?" "Because you were sleeping closest to the window. I only had time to save one person." Why did you let me go to school?" "Because I don't like school." He was serious. Completely open. No lies. The sunset made his eyes look almost gentle. That was the beginning. The beginning of the 10 long years where I would relentlessly, hopelessly chase after Benjamin. Benjamin called me 3 times. I didn't answer. Of course I didn't. By now, my body had probably drifted who knows how far down the river. The banquet had mostly cleared out. It was late into the night. He stood still, staring down at his phone screen for a long time. Then he switched numbers and called again. I saw it, it was my boss's number. Miss Reed, good evening. I'm sorry for disturbing you at this hour. His voice. Perfect for singing, perfect for speaking. Gentle and calm, the kind of voice that made it hard for anyone to get angry. I'm Joanna's husband. I wanted to ask, how did the business trip go today? Oh. There weren't any departmental trips scheduled recently. I see. Thank you. No, not at all, she and I are both grateful for your support. The rest was all pleasantries. He was polite. Flawless on the surface. But his eyes darkened. So dark they sank into the night. He walked while still on the call. Halfway through, he flagged down a cab. The driver asked him, where to? He hung up and looked up. Police station, he said. He wanted to report me missing. But the police told him that a missing person couldn't be reported until 24 hours had passed. A middle-aged man whose electric scooter had been stolen was sitting nearby. Hearing this, he came over to join the conversation. Young man, the uncle said, sounds to me like your girlfriend is just mad at you. She's probably stormed off somewhere and is ignoring your calls. That's normal, right? Benjamin sat with him at the entrance of the police station. He was still wearing his suit, so out of place in that shabby little building. His eyes were beautiful. But right now, they were empty. The uncle suddenly recognized him. Aren't you that singer? The famous one? I've seen you on TV. But Benjamin just spoke quietly to himself, she wouldn't ignore my calls. He said it calmly, naturally. As if stating that 1 + 1 = 2. She replies to my messages even when she's in the shower. It was true. In those purest years of young love, I did every foolish thing possible for Benjamin. During senior year of high school, when exam prep was at its most intense, I still found time to study recipes. Because I'd once heard someone say, to win a man's heart, you have to win his stomach first. So every time he came home, the dishes were different. I kept meticulous notes of his preferences, his tastes, and adjusted every meal based on his reactions. He said he didn't like comforting people. Then I would be the one to comfort him. To take care of him. I picked bones out of fish for him. Peeled shrimp for him. Warmed milk to the perfect temperature for him. That day, he came home just like always. 3 dishes and a soup waited on the table. My classmates were all studying feverishly while I was studying cookbooks. Convinced these meals were the ones he loved. He set down his chopsticks and gave me a soft smile. Joanna. The shrimp is too salty. I nodded. Okay, I'll make it lighter next time. The soup is too strong. Really? I thought you preferred richer flavors. The tomatoes and the stir-fried eggs are too spicy. It wasn't until that final sentence that I realized something was off. I hadn't added any chili peppers. Not even one. And I had tasted everything. There was nothing wrong with the food. He leaned back comfortably, studying me. My heart sank. Do you not like my cooking anymore? Joanna. He called my name again. He tipped his head back, looking at me. The light outlined the bridge of his nose, the curve of his brow. Beautiful enough to hurt. His voice was soft. Almost coquettish. My shoulders are sore. I stood up immediately and moved behind him to massage them. Is this pressure okay? I asked as I rubbed his neck with my thumbs. Only a sliver of skin exposed, yet still so beautiful. I always thought Benjamin didn't lose to any celebrity on TV. Joanna. Clean the kitchen after we eat. Okay. Wash the dishes. Okay. I answered automatically. And transfer me 20,000. I froze. 20,000? I don't have that much right now. Lowering my head, I asked carefully, can I give it to you later? After I get into college and start earning money? Streetlights flickered outside, their glow reflected in his eyes. The whole world seemed gilded in his irises. Yet no matter how I searched, I could never find myself there. He suddenly laughed. Reached out. Touched my face. Just once, brief as a feather. Then he said, Joanna, go outside for a bit. I want to smoke. Okay. So I waited obediently in the hallway. The autumn night breeze was just right. I could even count the stars. But by the time I reached the 67th star, he still hadn't called me back inside. Eventually, I pushed open the door myself. There was no trace of cigarette smell. The kitchen curtain swayed gently. The dishes were washed, stacked neatly to dry. On the table was a note and an envelope. His handwriting was neat. I never knew when he had learned to write like that. Study well for your exams. It doesn't matter if you don't do great. I'm leaving. I won't be home for the next few months. Don't look for me, you won't find me. I opened the envelope and counted the bills inside. Scattered, folded, uneven. 20,000 yuan. The year of the college entrance exam, I did very well. I had always been the top student in school, but that year I performed even better than usual. In our small county, that score was rare. But I wasn't happy. Not at all. Not until Benjamin came back. He had reported the man who adopted us. It turned out he was the head of a large pickpocketing ring in the area. The punishment was heavy. He would be locked away for life. I heard that in court, the man spat on Benjamin and cursed him until his face twisted. But it was pointless. Benjamin never had parents to begin with. Benjamin returned as if nothing had happened. He even brought me a gift. A congratulatory present. For becoming an adult, and for getting into the school I wanted. That was the second time I confessed to him. He smoked beside me, lowered his gaze, and said, "Hey, Joanna, can you stop bringing up the one topic you shouldn't?" Benjamin called my phone again. But this time, my phone was already powered off. This was probably the first time in almost 24 hours that I hadn't replied to him. Before, I could never bear to let him wait even a single second. He scrolled through our chat history again. I didn't know what he was looking for. It was all messages from me. "I'm so bored. Benjamin, what are you doing? Keep me company. I like you. Don't ignore me. Scumbag." It always ended like that. With me accusing him of something. Sometimes he replied, sometimes he didn't. I never minded. He was used to it, too. Used to me clinging to his side for presents. Used to me curling into his arms and biting his collarbone, whispering, "Benjamin. Can't you care about me, even just a little?" But this time, he scrolled all the way to the bottom. To the last message he had sent. A message I hadn't replied to for 5 hours. The 2 green text bubbles stood out sharply on the screen. "You said you'd come home early tonight. Anna, you're really so late." When I was in college, Benjamin and I lived in the same city. So we moved in together. The rent was cheap, and the neighborhood was run down. There was a rooftop on the top floor. Benjamin and I loved sitting there in the evenings. "Benjamin, what kind of girl do you like?" I had asked him that once. He leaned against the railing, lazy and carefree, turning slightly to block the sharp autumn wind from hitting me. Half of his handsome face glowed in the sunset. "Someone rich, I guess. Someone who can support me. Someone I don't have to coax. Someone who doesn't cause trouble." Huh. I hate girls who cry all the time. I never doubted that Benjamin's life goal was to find some rich woman to sponsor him. He didn't seem like someone with lofty ambitions anyway. Most things came easily to him with just a curl of his finger. But after that day, the thing I became most passionate about in college was making money. I was quick academically. A question that took others 2 or 3 minutes took me only a few seconds. Soon, I was recruited into a company run by seniors from my university. After that, I began earning a lot. I still remember. That day was Benjamin's birthday. Snow was falling heavily. I brought out the cake I had bought him. A 3,459 yuan cake, the kind I thought only truly wealthy people could afford. "Benjamin." I pulled out stacks of red bills. Months of salary, so much of it. I laid them before him. "Look, I'm rich now. I can take the burden off you. I can." But then, the wail of police sirens approached. Red and blue lights painted the snow in dazzling colors. Yet all I could see was his eyes. "Benjamin. Can you take a bite of the birthday cake? I really prepared this for a long time, Happy birthday, Benjamin." And then, I was arrested. The company I worked for was involved in illegal fundraising and tax evasion. And because my name was listed as the legal representative, I was the first one to be taken in. My seniors had long fled without a trace. I was the only one caught. That was when I realized. They had probably recruited me so eagerly because they wanted me to take the fall. I don't like remembering the days in the detention center. Eventually, the seniors were caught too. And because I had kept enough evidence beforehand, I wasn't sentenced. The day I walked out of the detention center, Benjamin came to pick me up. His gaze hadn't changed. But I had grown quieter. He lifted his coat and draped it over my shoulders. Once we got into the car, he spoke as if we had never been apart. "Wanna get hot pot?" I used to try to find something, anything, inside Benjamin's eyes. But there was never anything there. At the hot pot restaurant, I watched his face through the soft steam rising from the pot. Some people really did have eyelashes long enough to cast shadows under their eyes. "Anna." He called me. My heart rose and fell with the piece of tripe he held between his chopsticks. Twirling it absent-mindedly. "That incident where you got arrested. Let's make this clear, I'm not responsible for any of it." He propped his chin on his hand, beautiful eyes retaining only their beauty. His brows curved in a smile that was gentle, cold, and indifferent all at once. "Don't try to guilt-trip me. Officer, please. I think something may have really happened to my partner." It was the third time Benjamin checked his watch. Before speaking to the police officer at the front desk. Sir, the officer said, she's an adult with the ability to move freely. We've documented your concern, but it's possible her phone died. Or she's somewhere with poor signal. Please try not to worry too much. Hearing this, for the first time ever, I saw confusion flicker in Benjamin's eyes. Our situation is a little unusual. To my partner? I'm very important. She would never ignore my messages. I checked our chat history, officer. I don't know if this counts as evidence. But she has never taken more than 5 hours to reply to me. Nowadays, with how common shared power banks are. The officer only sighed and continued his paperwork. But the man who had lost his electric scooter, delighted in stirring up trouble. He leaned over again. You two just had a fight, didn't you? All that talk about how important you are. Face it, young man, your wife just doesn't want you. Benjamin froze for a moment, just about to refute him. When a gust of autumn wind swept through the entrance that hadn't been fully closed, something made him pause. He turned his head sharply. At the same time, the police line rang. Natick Police Station, hello. We've just found an unidentified female body in East Lake. We'd like to confirm if there have been any missing person reports recently. I wanted to see Benjamin cry. I wanted to see him, after learning I was dead, go into disbelief first. Then I wanted him to confirm it again and again, before the tears finally burst out, falling onto my corpse. Then I wanted him to hold me and weep in anguish. All right. I knew that would never happen. Just like how I once gave Benjamin 100 flowers. And not a single one ever reached his heart. After college, even though I ended up spending some time in detention, thankfully the evidence I had saved proved I wasn't involved in the illegal actions of that company. And with the strong support of my advisor, my graduate school recommendation wasn't affected. During my postgrad years, I became obsessed with giving Benjamin flowers. Roses. Garden roses. Baby's breath. I know it probably sounds strange, but my genuine hobby at the time was matching delicate, vibrant bouquets to give him. It took 45 minutes by electric bike from my dorm to Benjamin's apartment. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, rain or shine, I went. This one's a champagne rose. This one's white lisianthus. This one's a little daisy. I held out the bouquet and pointed each flower out to him. But he was looking at me. His long lashes cast a lazy shadow as they fell. And while I kept rambling on and on, honestly, just to spend a few more minutes talking to him, he finally leaned forward and took the bouquet from my hands. All right. Thank you kindly. His movements were smooth, natural. Even the way he shut the door in my face was just as casual. Wait, Benjamin. This time, I grabbed the edge of the door, looked up at him. Please don't kick me out again. I sniffled. I miss you so much. You not letting me see you, it's no different than killing me. Benjamin let me into his apartment. I looked around the space I had never stepped into before. Since we separated, he had moved here. It was small, barely a quarter the size of my graduate dorm room. But it was tidy. His old, well-used guitar leaned by the table. He sat in a single armchair by the window, bathed in perfect, even light. I saw him carefully arranging the bouquet I gave him. You didn't throw away the flowers I gave you. I leaned closer to look. I'd lost count of how many bouquets I had given him. But he must have known. Because each one had a vase. Each one categorized and carefully displayed. Benjamin had even bought a flower shelf just for them. Because I like flowers, he said. He unwrapped the paper, trimmed the stems. Every motion was practiced. Until I backed him into that very flower stand. Do you like the flowers? I tilted my head with a sly smile. Or do you like me, the one who brings them? I couldn't go a day without teasing him. He raised the bouquet of champagne roses between us, blocking the distance. The fragrance pressed close, intensifying the thud of my heartbeat. I had confessed like this countless times. No blush, no nerves. But this time, he leaned in, and whispered gently beside my ear, you. In that moment, my heart shot up to 180 beats per minute. I turned as red as the rose blooming in the corner. He lifted a hand, his fingers brushing my hair by my temple. And he smiled. He was so beautiful when he smiled, gentle and dazzling. Let's date for a day, Joanna, he said, looking into my eyes, light glimmering with sincerity and cruelty. Just one day, then we'll break up. I'd dreamed countless times of what it would be like to date Benjamin. He would be gentle, attentive, so good at taking care of people. But clearly, I had overestimated myself. He held my hand as we walked. I was so nervous I couldn't even speak. Our one-day relationship began as the setting sun slipped between the buildings. First stop, the famous old town in our city. Girlfriend, he said, are you hot or something? A cold can of Coke pressed against my cheek. We sat among the crowd, watching a street performance. You blush the moment you see me. He suddenly leaned in. His handsome face zooming into view, breathtaking. I just realized something terrifying, I mumbled, half my face wrapped in a scarf. He tilted his head, his fingertip gently brushing mine. I've chased plenty of people before. But I've never actually dated anyone. And then, he laughed. The performance was reaching its climax. Voices surged all around us. It took me a while to realize. They were pointing the event camera at us. We appeared on the big screen. Kiss. Kiss. The crowd erupted in cheers. Fireworks bloomed in the night sky. Benjamin adjusted my scarf. And just as my heartbeat thundered in my ears, as panic melted every bone in my body, he pulled my scarf forward, and kissed me, through it. I once heard a theory, the reason fine dining tastes so delicious is because the portions are always tiny. Just when you want another bite, it's already gone. Dating for one day felt like that to me. Benjamin was a breathtaking painting, but one drawn with disappearing ink. And he told me, in that calm, almost careless way, that I would follow the fading of that ink. Right up until he vanished completely. The next day, Benjamin and I went to the amusement park. Every time I turned around, he was watching me. I thought, Benjamin really had a natural talent for being a good boyfriend. When he wanted to coax someone, he could make them impossibly happy. When we were leaving the park, we took a Polaroid. Come on, stand a little closer. The staff member laughed as she held up the camera. Before I could react, he wrapped an arm around my waist. Girlfriend. The thin light of sunset landed on his brows. When I looked up, all I could see was the sharp line of his jaw. Look at the camera. The shutter clicked. And the sun dipped behind the mountains. We walked out of the park, one in front of the other. We had come by electric scooter. He climbed onto the back seat without a hint of hesitation. Drive me. He tilted his head at me, the afterglow of sunset drifting quietly through his eyes. I'm tired. Anna. I drove the little scooter with him sitting behind me. I asked, is today over? Yeah. So, are you still my boyfriend? What do you think? If you want me to think so, then I'll think so. Suddenly, I felt his forehead rest gently against my back. Don't do that, he said. Through the wind, I heard his voice, some things, beautiful things, happy things. They come in limited quantities. Once you finish them, that's it. Benjamin, will you also disappear? He didn't answer. I thought he simply didn't feel like talking, or was too tired. Or that my question was too childish. Until I stopped at a traffic light. Hey, little girl. A middle-aged woman waiting beside me called out. That person behind you. I turned to look. Because of my movement, the person leaning against me slipped straight off the scooter. Benjamin. I called him. His eyes were closed, as if asleep. No response. I jumped off, shaking his shoulders. Benjamin. Benjamin. My hands trembled uncontrollably as I fumbled for my phone. When I finally managed to dial 120, I realized I had mistyped the number several times. My fingers refusing to cooperate. It's a brain tumor. Hospital lights always cast a cold emptiness over everything. I stared at the scan in front of me, unable to understand it. I could hear the doctor talking, but my mind couldn't process the words. From the imaging, it appears to be low grade. But whether it has already transformed malignantly requires a craniotomy for biopsy. What do you mean? If it worsens, will he die? My voice sounded dazed. The probability of death is high. That's why we recommend biopsy as soon as possible. There is minor intracranial bleeding. For now, the pressure has decreased, but I still strongly recommend urgent surgery. Are you the patient's family? The doctor looked at me. I froze for a moment before answering, no. I'm his friend. Had the patient's family come in to sign the surgical consent. A gust of autumn wind slipped in through the window, rustling the green plant on the doctor's desk. I'm sorry, doctor. A bitterness spread through my mouth. He and I, neither of us have family. When I stepped into the ward, Benjamin was sitting on the bed, looking at me. I didn't know whether his yo was supposed to be a greeting or what. It was the first time in my life I ever felt the urge to hit him. Benjamin. I stood in front of him. You're dying. Do you understand that? His gaze remained calm. Is that so? Did the doctor tell you whether dying would hurt? I'm a little scared of pain. Benjamin. He reached out, wiping away the tears rolling down my cheeks. He laughed softly, amused. I'm the one dying, not you. You're crying like this, is it an early funeral for me? It wasn't funny at all. The more he joked, the harder I cried. He looked increasingly helpless. I knew he hated people who cried. But I also hated my inability to hold back tears. Benjamin. His response had a gentle, coaxing lilt. Let's get married. I said. The doctor said the surgical consent must be signed by family. The only identity I can use to sign for you is as your wife. At the Civil Affairs Bureau, I explained the logic behind my brilliant 5-word proposal. He sat obediently next to me, casually folding a paper crane from a pamphlet and placing it in my hair. "Looks cute." He smiled, satisfied. We were the last couple to get our marriage certificate before closing. I opened the booklet to look. On the red background of our wedding photo, I looked awkward, eyes dodging the camera. But Benjamin looked like his entire face was saying, "I got married today. I'm so happy." Even then, it was obvious. He had a natural sense for the camera. After returning to the hospital, Benjamin began pre-operative preparations. Although it was a craniotomy, the doctor assured me that a biopsy itself wasn't very risky. But if the tumor turned out to be malignant, "Benjamin, can you not die?" The night before the surgery, I held his hand tightly. "Wouldn't you feel your life was wasted? Dying a virgin, Benjamin?" He gave me a squinted smile, unceremoniously pulling his hand out of mine. Then he patted my head. "Good night. See you the day after tomorrow." And yes, I did see him the day after tomorrow. The surgery went perfectly. The tumor was benign. The doctor removed it while they were in there. Benjamin was completely fine. I quietly hid away the overdose of sleeping pills I had prepared. During his post-surgery recovery, I made him all kinds of good food. The woman in the bed next to him, who had also just had a tumor removed, smiled and said, "Oh my, this young man clearly has a life of blessings. With a wife like you." To be fair, I was being a bit overly meticulous with how I prepared his ingredients. After years of cooking for Benjamin, my skills had reached the point where even my lab mates at the institute couldn't stop praising me. All thanks to Benjamin's pickiness and his extremely specific taste preferences. Those days in the hospital, we got along quite normally. He didn't bring up our marriage. And I was more than happy to pretend it never happened. At least until the day he was discharged. I finished his paperwork. He stood at the entrance with a few large bags, waiting for me. His hair had grown a little during the hospital stay, which made his sharp brow bones seem even more aloof and melancholic. I spotted a few girls a bit farther away sneaking photos of him. I called out, "Benjamin." He responded with a quiet I walked over and, as usual, launched into one of our meaningless daily chats. "What do you want to eat?" "Beef noodles." "From where?" "Wade Road?" "Haven't had it in a while." "Okay, let's go." I used to go to that beef noodle shop on Wade Road with Benjamin back in college. Even by the time I was in grad school, the price hadn't changed. There was a row of seats by the window where we liked to sit, facing the street, watching people rush past, while the sunset hid behind long shadows. Our noodles arrived. Benjamin pushed his boiled egg into my bowl. He didn't like eggs, but I loved them. Same with milk, so growing up, one serving of eggs and milk was always enough for both of us. Most of our time together was like this. Quiet. Not saying much. But I liked it. It felt like a luxury. To waste time this way with Benjamin. Through the window, we heard dogs barking. Sounded like 2 strays had gotten into a fight. Their owners were struggling to pull them apart. Tufts of fur littered the sidewalk. We both paused our slurping to watch the drama unfold. Then, out of nowhere, something landed beside my bowl. A small box. Velvet-lined. I picked it up and opened it. Inside, a diamond ring shimmered, sending delicate sparks of light across the table. Getting married was a bit rushed. I never even proposed. He was still eating, not looking at me, like he was talking about something completely mundane. Like saying, "Hey, I got discounted cabbage at the market today. Luckily, I held your hand before, so I know your size. Wanna try it on? Not sure if you'll like it." Then he pulled back the finger I'd reached out with. "I didn't ask you to put it on me. You're proposing to me now." I tilted my head. "Because I've always imagined it this way." His hand caught my wrist. Then he took my ring finger, slipped the ring on. It fit perfectly. The glint of the diamond scattered into a delicate shadow. It was so beautiful. If I could travel through time, I'd bring a camera, go back to this exact moment. And take 100 pictures. Of him holding my hand. Oh, but right. How could I forget? I was already dead. Suddenly, I felt cold. My spirit began to slip, to lose control. Maybe this was it. Maybe I was finally disappearing for good. Benjamin got into the police car, and I drifted quietly behind him. The sirens wailed. Multicolored lights spilled into his eyes. He rested his chin in his palm, staring out the window. I sat beside him. I knew he couldn't hear me. Couldn't feel me. But still, I wanted to speak. "I'm sorry." I looked up. The red and blue flashes from the siren nearly rendered me transparent. "Benjamin, I just didn't know how to go on living. I forgot how many days or months after we got married it was. When I was officially diagnosed with depression. It had always been there, just never so obvious, until my body started to show the signs. Dizziness. Tunnel vision. Panic attacks, out of nowhere. Worst of all, I couldn't feel happiness anymore. There was a time when snagging the last discounted cupcake before the bakery closed could make my day. Now, no matter what I did, I couldn't feel joy. When I got the results. Severe depression, printed coldly across the top. I hesitated for a moment. Doctor, but, my life is going really well. How could I have depression? There are many causes for depression, he said. It's not just present-day trauma. There's delayed emotional response, even genetic factors. You've already developed physical symptoms. You really should take this seriously. Do you have family? I just couldn't understand. Standing in the hospital hallway, I stared at the report in my hands. As tear after tear fell on the paper. Why? My life was finally getting better. This year, I'd been promoted to head of my research department. More and more music companies and managers were reaching out to Benjamin. Our days together were growing sweeter. He didn't push me away anymore. Didn't reject me all the time. He would towel dry my hair after showers, hold me in his arms like it was second nature. He'd prepare little gifts for holidays, bring me an umbrella on rainy days, come pick me up from work. Why, then, couldn't I feel happy? Back home, I opened the door. You're back, Benjamin said. I made some scones. Not sure if you'll like them. He was stroking his chin in thought. Then turned to smile at me. Want to be the first brave soul to try them? I was scared. Scared that days like this would vanish. I hated myself. Why did I have to get sick now? On the way home, I kept reading forum posts about depression. Being friends with someone with depression might drag you down too. Don't date someone with depression. Their world is too dark. Always crying, always needing comfort, I just can't understand them. Benjamin didn't like girls who always needed comforting. I stepped out of my shoes and into the entryway. Rolled up my sleeves, snatched a warm piece of bread straight from the tray. I grinned at him. All right, let me see what we've got here. And from that day on, I wore a mask. A mask called Smile. I started suffering from insomnia, night after night. I just couldn't fall asleep. Once you're alone and thinking, it's easy to spiral. There were too many things I couldn't figure out. I didn't understand why I had developed depression. So many things had happened before, and I'd survived all of them. Why was it this moment, this hurdle, I couldn't get past? Why was it so painful? In the lab, I was always the last to leave. A light drizzle fell outside. I looked up at the giant screen across the street. A New Year's Eve variety show was playing. Benjamin had been invited to perform. Yeah. He was becoming something of a rising star now. Even though he didn't care much for fame, I think I overheard his manager say once. He's born for the camera. He's going to be huge. The rain neatly separated us into two different worlds. By now, I could hardly feel happiness anymore. But still, I reached out gently, trying to capture his figure on the screen in the palm of my hand. What was I thinking in that moment? I think, when you peel back all the layers, remove gender, desire, and every worldly label. I still didn't want to be apart from you. But in the end, I still jumped. I'm sorry, Benjamin. It was just too painful. Living without dopamine is like living in hell. It was unbearable. When not even the tiniest spark of emotion could reach me, every single day became torture. I wanted to smile. But the reflection in the mirror showed me tears instead. I was getting worse. Insomnia. Palpitations. Even my memory started slipping. I used to have such a sharp mind, but sometimes now I'd forget where I put my toothbrush. I kept questioning the meaning of staying alive. That day, he won a major award. Now, he could give himself a great life. His future was dazzling. He had finally stepped into the spotlight that belonged solely to him. They all said he was made for the camera. That was enough for me. That was good. Benjamin's life, without me, would probably be better. So that day, I jumped from the bridge across the river. Okay, I admit it. I didn't tell you before I jumped. A light rain was falling by the river. Red and blue lights flickered beneath the bridge arch. Police had already cordoned off the area. Benjamin got out of the patrol car. Everyone around him moved briskly, probably eager to confirm the identity of the deceased. I hovered beside him, mumbling to myself. Ugh, I hope my body didn't soak in the water too long. What if I bloated up like some river ghost? That'd be awful. Your last glimpse of your wife's face is that face? Benjamin, I almost feel sorry for you. Under the bridge, a few detectives and a forensic officer stood around a black plastic tarp. It outlined a human form. I figured that must be me. Someone led Benjamin over. He knelt down. The forensic officer said something to him in a low voice. Benjamin nodded. Then the man reached for the zipper. Joanna. I heard Benjamin say softly. The bag was being unzipped. To be honest, I was curious. What did my body look like by now? How often in life do you get to view your own corpse? So I floated closer. Huh? That's weird. The body had no face. Joanna. Someone was calling my name. I didn't understand. Why could I still hear someone calling my name? Why was it Benjamin? Why was there the sound of water rushing past my ears? Why was I so cold? Why did my nose hurt? Why did my lungs and throat feel like they were being stabbed? I opened my eyes. And saw the stars. And the river. I was thrashing in the water. My consciousness had blurred, but my body had already triggered its survival instincts. With all the strength I had left, I lifted one arm. And someone grabbed me, hard. Wow, what a tight hold. My limbs were numb, my teeth chattered, I had no strength left. So I clung to him, letting him drag me toward the shore. My brain wasn't working anymore. But my eyes were wide open. I saw the lights on shore. Flickering dots, a crowd forming, ambulances and police cars, red and blue lights swirling. Don't give up. Someone formed a megaphone with their hands and shouted at us. Finally, I was pulled onto dry land. I couldn't speak at first. Coughed violently. After a long moment, I squeezed out a single word, cold. Then I was pulled into someone's arms. Held tightly, tightly. It felt a little warmer like that. My brain was still heavy. But the person holding me was Benjamin. He'd really come. In a dress shirt and slacks. Soaked through now. Oh, wasn't he supposed to be at an awards show? I leaned against him. My chin rested on his shoulder. In the distance, medics rushed toward us with a stretcher. Anna. His voice carried the dampness of river water. He called my name. But the medics separated us. They placed me on the stretcher. I kept clinging to his hand. The night sky was sleepless. He looked down at me. Leaning in close, gazing at me so seriously, so intently. Joanna. I never once thought of giving up on you. So, don't give up on me either. He brushed away the river water sticking to my bangs with his thumb. I blinked. Slowly, thought returned to my brain. I looked up. Stars glimmered softly above. And after a long, long time, I realized something. I was crying. I didn't die. Benjamin saved me. Benjamin saved me again. When did Benjamin first realize that Joanna had depression? Probably 2 years ago. When she began spacing out more often. He twisted open a bottle of milk and handed it to her. She just stood there, stunned. He found it a little funny and playfully pressed the cold bottle against her skin. What are you thinking about? But she flinched like a startled rabbit. Benjamin had this gift. He was always incredibly sensitive to changes in people's emotions. It might have been a kind of intuition. The moment Anna stopped smiling, he could tell something was wrong. If she wasn't happy, then he just had to make her happy. That part was easy for Benjamin. He was a natural at it. But then he discovered something. Anna wouldn't cheer up. Even when she smiled at him, he could tell the smile wasn't real. It was like she was the one comforting him. He rubbed her head and buried the thought in his heart. The real turning point came one day when she asked him to drop off a document at her office. While looking for it, he found 2 boxes of pills hidden deep in a cabinet. A quick search told him they were for treating depression. The next day, when she had just gotten dressed and was about to head out, he hugged her from behind. Anna had always been sensitive to touch. She'd freeze up whenever he got too close. He kissed the tip of her ear, moving downward. She looked like she was preparing for a noble sacrifice as she mumbled, "Benjamin, if we're going to do it, should I take the day off?" Instead, he pressed those 2 boxes of pills into her hand. And gently kissed her ear. "Joanna," he whispered. "Are you sick? Tell me." Faced with his question, Joanna told him everything. She'd been diagnosed with depression a month ago. Recently, she couldn't feel joy anymore. She didn't know why. There was no obvious trigger. He listened quietly to the end. Then she smiled and tried to brush it off. "Yeah, I don't know either. Whatever. I'll probably feel better after taking these for a few days. Don't worry about it." He nodded. Told her to be careful on the way to work. Then immediately went to find her attending doctor. Among the major types of depression, the doctor said, there's one called delayed onset depression. This type doesn't strike right after a traumatic event. It often emerges years later. After the patient has entered a seemingly stable, peaceful phase of life. Also, your wife is extremely intelligent. There may be genetic factors at play as well. You must understand, depression isn't just an emotional issue. It's a neurological disorder, an imbalance in brain structure and chemistry. High IQ individuals are twice as likely to suffer from depression. And it's often harder to treat. But I'd still recommend identifying the root cause of her illness. What had caused Joanna's depression? It wasn't hard to find. He dug through old newspapers and pulled up archived reports. 7 years ago, when Joanna was detained, The warden of the facility was later investigated and charged with corruption, bribery, and abuse of authority. What had she gone through in there? She never told him. At the time, he was running around, trying to pull strings, drinking beer bottle after bottle just to build connections and find a decent lawyer for her. He never even made it to the detention center to visit her. When she got out, he only thought she looked a little thinner. That was all. That night, Benjamin couldn't sleep either. It was nearly 6 or 7 a.m. when he finally drifted off. And he dreamed. In the dream, Joanna was covered in blood. Swords 6, 7, maybe 8, stabbed through her body in every direction. She smiled at him and said, "You came to see me, Benjamin." After that, Joanna's depression still didn't improve. They tried everything. Medication, therapy, specialists. But Joanna just kept sinking deeper. She was rarely in a good mood. They'd gone through nearly 30 broken plates at home. She was the one who threw them. Sitting in a chair, hugging herself in a state of quiet panic. During moments like that, he would kneel in front of her and coax her gently, "Don't cry, don't be sad. You're so beautiful today, crying just ruins it. If something's bothering you, tell me, okay?" Sometimes she'd accidentally hurt him. A flying shard of porcelain once grazed his cheek, leaving a thin cut. He wiped it with his hand. Joanna's eyes were wide with guilt. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I couldn't control myself, I'm sorry." He pulled her into his arms, gently patting her head. "It's okay. It's all right. Don't cry. Joanna, hold me." He guided her arms around his neck. "I'm here. Joanna, you like me, don't you?" "Well, I'm right here. You still have me." He smiled at her, sweet and eager. He wanted to be her light. Her angel. Because maybe, just maybe, if he could be that, he'd have the courage to lead her out of the dark. Benjamin hadn't been much of a cook before. But after Joanna once tried to end her life by turning on the gas while cooking, he was the only one allowed in the kitchen. Luckily, he was quick to learn. Within 2 or 3 days, his cooking already looked and smelled pretty damn good. Though Joanna's tastes were pickier than his. If she liked something, she'd eat a lot. If she didn't, she'd leave it untouched. To get her to eat more, Benjamin pulled out every trick he knew. "Bro, since when did you have skills like this?" A bartender friend at the bar whistled in amazement. "You even carved that radish into a flower?" Benjamin chuckled. "That's nothing. That flower's just one of many in my radish garden. The dinner I'm making for Joanna tonight? I'm naming it Dream of the Red Chamber." Right then, he remembered to text her. Every hour, he would send her a message. Even if there was nothing urgent. He had to. Just to make sure she was still conscious. "Did you eat lunch? Don't forget to eat today, okay?" 3 minutes later, she replied with a sticker of a bunny obediently eating. Joanna had started having memory issues too. It was a side effect of her ECT treatment. Electroconvulsive therapy. A controlled seizure to reboot certain neural circuits in the brain. It was currently the most effective option for her. But it made her a little foggy. She began forgetting little things. Her keys, important documents, what she was supposed to bring with her. And eventually, she started forgetting conversations she'd had with Benjamin. Started forgetting things they had done together. And forgot that. He had long since found out about her depression. That morning, she said goodbye like she always did. Benjamin leaned lazily against the doorframe, watching her. "Come home early," he said. He had no idea that she was going to end her life that day. Benjamin sensed something was wrong the moment he stepped off the stage after receiving his award. Just before going up, he had texted Joanna, "Did you make it to the hotel? How's the room?" He accepted the trophy, gave a short speech, and walked off stage. But his phone still showed no reply. In that instant, his heart dropped like a stone. Ignoring his manager's frantic looks, he slipped out of the audience and into a quiet backstage hallway. He called Joanna. Once, twice, 3 times. No answer. Then he called her supervisor. "Miss Reed, sorry to disturb you so late. I'm Joanna's husband. Just wanted to ask, how's her business trip today? Everything going smoothly?" The reply came swiftly, "There was no business trip today." Benjamin ended the call and turned to leave the venue. Only to be grabbed from behind by his manager. "Are you out of your mind? This is an awards ceremony. There are dozens of media cameras out there, how can you just walk out? Get back to your seat. Now." "I'm not going back. I think something's happened to Anna. I need to find her." "You can't be serious?" The manager was practically choking on rage. Seeing that he couldn't stop him, his tone changed. "Fine. You're not going back? Look behind you, Benjamin. This is every performer's dream. The stage, the spotlight. After tonight, after the interviews, you'll be everywhere. Every show. Every news feed. Money. Fame. Endless opportunities. Overnight, you'll be a national sensation. I'm begging you, just sit through the interview, alright? Come on. She's fine. She probably just didn't reply. I texted my wife 3 days ago and she still hasn't replied. Benjamin, please. Just look behind you. Look at all the cameras, all the reporters, all the media, they're all waiting for you. You're really not going to turn back. The noise in the background was deafening. Even the manager's voice trembled. This was a man who had launched countless stars. And maybe, just maybe, he was telling the truth. But Benjamin didn't even pause. Benjamin. That was the last time the manager called out to him. And Benjamin finally replied, you know what? I never wanted to be famous in the first place. He halted for just a beat, then stepped into the endless night. Benjamin had once bought Joanna a phone charm. A bunny hugging a radish. It swayed gently as she walked. She adored it. But inside that charm was a tiny GPS tracker. Benjamin only activated it when he had absolutely no way of finding her. The app hadn't been running long before it pinged, Qley Bridge. The car he drove was a Bugatti Veyron. Top speed, 407 kilometers per hour. It belonged to Joanna's boss. Her boss was a brilliant, no-nonsense woman. Young, powerful, heiress to a business empire. When she heard Joanna had gone missing, she immediately sent her security team to help with the search. Then tossed Benjamin the keys. There's no car faster than this in the world. Please, find her. So Benjamin drove. The fastest street-legal car on earth. To chase after the girl he loved. He must have wished time would slow down. Slow enough for him to catch up to her. And also wished it would speed up. Fast enough to end the agony of not knowing. He raced across the bridge. And saw a figure in white standing at the edge. So small. So alone. She looked cold. The roar of the car echoed like a beast. And then, the white figure jumped. A lie. No one can outrun time, no matter how fast your car is. He pulled over. Tore off his jacket and leapt into the river. The Weather Bureau had just issued a severe cold alert. The river's chill cut straight into his bones. Joanna. He shouted her name, searching the inky darkness. But the night was too black. The current too strong. He couldn't find her. So he just kept yelling, swallowing mouthfuls of icy water. He remembered the night he took her and ran from the orphanage. It had been this cold. He'd held her hand. Back then, he probably had no idea they'd never be apart again. Now he was freezing. His vision started to blur. But he suddenly remembered what he told her that night, I'll take you out of here. I'll take you out. That thought snapped him awake. He dove deeper, slicing through the water, calling her name. And this time, he saw it, a hand, breaking the surface of the water. He swam toward it with everything he had. Grabbed her. Held on like letting go. Would mean losing her forever. He dragged her out of the water. By then, a crowd had gathered. She whispered, cold. So he wrapped her tightly in his arms. And then, she started sobbing. Loud, aching sobs. He had never heard her cry like that. It was like she was trying to pour out every tear she'd ever held in. The sirens wailed. Police, ambulance. The wind swept in from the river. But he didn't feel cold anymore. She kept crying, like the world had wronged her. He held her close, wiping away her tears, one by one. He had once asked a doctor, why do humans cry? The doctor replied, to release all the bad things inside. The sadness. The fear. The pain. Benjamin. Her voice cracked. Jumping in, was so cold. It hurt so bad. Dying is awful, sobi. I'm never randomly jumping into rivers again, tat. I don't want to die anymore. He cradled her, his chin resting gently on her shoulder. He looked up. Stars twinkled in the sky above. Looks like I caught up with time after all, he thought. 2 months later, Joanna was discharged. Once she got better, she was full of life again. Her legs worked, her body was fine, and most importantly, she started smiling from the heart again. She went back to work quickly, to the joy of Director Zhang, who kept saying, the whole lab's been waiting for you to lead us again. One afternoon, Benjamin showed up at her office with 2 cups of milk tea. Look at you, celebrity in disguise. Scarf, hat, sunglasses. Joanna leaned in and flicked his shades playfully. He took them off, revealing those bright, seductive eyes of his. Then slipped them onto her nose. Here, let me share them with you. When we leave, let's go through the back door. This is such a hassle, ugh. She pouted dramatically as he laced their fingers together. You're so famous now. All my coworkers want your autograph. All because someone took a photo of you saving me that night and posted it online. The post went viral, way better than any press conference. Everyone's calling you National Husband of the Year. National Husband, then can you carry me? She took every chance to be sweet with him now. Benjamin raised an eyebrow. I feel like my leg fracture hasn't fully healed. Joanna hadn't meant to play along that seriously. But in the next second, Benjamin scooped her up into a bridal carry. Wait, hey! And now she was the one blushing. If my leg isn't healed, shouldn't I carry you like this? He leaned in. She had already buried her face in his chest, too flustered to speak. The spring sunlight was soft and golden. He carried her toward the car. They didn't say much. The breeze was gentle. Butterflies flitted among the blooming rapeseed flowers. She gripped his scarf tightly. Then, muffled through its wool, she spoke, "Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you for saving me that day. We don't say thank you in this house." Then what do we say? He smiled. We say, "I love you."